Welcome to the Give for Grouse podcast, dedicated to giving the ruffed grouse a voice by promoting sound wildlife management, advocating for forest health, and championing all things conservation. Now let's get to the show with Cody Altizer and Eric Law. Mr. Cody Altizer,
what's up?
How are you today?
I am super duper.
All right.
Well,
yeah, this is well. Okay then.
How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing swell. Thanks for asking.
Good.
No,
super duper and swell.
Yeah, we're bringing back some words here, but no, it's funny when we decided to do a podcast again, especially for Give for Grouse. We were talking about having a diverse group of people on the podcast. And one of the things that we mentioned was, let's get a bird hunter's perspective, not to tell stories, because that doesn't necessarily move the needle, if you will. It can, but for people just diving into this, we wanted a bird hunting perspective with a little bit of habitat and knowledge to go with it to help people out understand things. And you reached out to a gentleman a while back, and yeah, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a while back. It was just a few days ago. His name is Wesley Hodges. He is our guest today. He is here in Virginia, right up the road from me, not too far. I'm embarrassed to admit I didn't know he was so close to me, but he's a guide and outfitter here in Western Virginia, I think for grouse, turkeys, fly fishing. I think he does some riverboat trips. But yeah, obviously some shared common ground with grouse, and he was on my radar, and I reached out to him on Instagram just kind of to touch base, open a line of communication, say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, and asked if he would be interested to come on the podcast. Didn't have any expectation beyond that, and he sent me his number. He said, hey, let's talk. I called him that afternoon. We had a great phone call conversation, which is what has led us to our podcast, our episode today. And we'll save the good stuff for him, but it was a refreshing conversation when I talked with him, because what you and I exist to do in the Give for Grouse initiative is, among many other things, to give grouse a voice, advocate for the species, advocate for the timber industry, educate on forest management, this, that, and the other. To do that effectively, we have to tell the whole story. As far in applying that to grouse, that calling a spade and saying, hey, things aren't what they used to be. The heyday of grouse, people say the 70s, 80s. I think Mike mentioned 2001 for Virginia being the last that the grouse hunters can point to, is saying that was 25 years ago. Ever since then, if you listen to the vast majority of the general public, the arrow is pointing down, and it is hitting down quickly. When I talked to Wes, it was kind of the opposite of that. He was very optimistic. He's in the woods a lot, hunting a lot, hundreds of miles, and he's, again, I don't want to speak for him, but has a very different perspective and sings a little bit different tune than what most people say about grouse in Virginia.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation, but I'm going to pass the ball quickly back to you. We have to do some homework.
We didn't do our homework today.
We didn't. I have to see the things I have to deal with.
I know. You even have it prepared. I'll bring my little guy up here too, Chip and Dale. Homework. Yeah, our Give for Grouse. Not our Give for Grouse. That is what we are. Our billboard campaign is still going on. I think we're like $6,500 out of 10K.
Damn, cool.
So we are, closer and closer day by day. We got a donation as small as $10.
Yeah,
which is encouraged. Super. And we've gotten donations significantly more than that. Anything in between helps us move the needle. HabitatVA.org is where you can go and donate. Again, your donation supports a logger, the ruffed grouse, and the timber industry, all three things for which we are advocates. Homework item number 2. I call dibs on Chip. Mine's named Chip.
Okay, I'll go Dale.
Oh yeah, you got to show Dale.
Hey.
If you leave a 5-star review and rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we send you a free sticker. Chip. I got Chip. Chip, sporting a steel chainsaw, ready to do the Lord's work. Leave us a 5-star review. We'll send you a sticker for free. Homework over. Let's bring Wes on.
And you've been sending those out like wildfire, man.
I should have kept count. I could go back. It's probably 25.
Yeah, that's
25 stickers.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
It's exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to share a little news with everybody, and this is something that Cody and I really want to dive into is, giving seminars and getting asked to give talks. And I was privileged enough to talk to I'm going to butcher this. It's probably not the correct thing. East Ohio Loggers Chapter. And they had a dinner, I think a couple weeks ago, kind of a keynote, if you will. Give a half-hour presentation, not even a presentation, just a talk, and explain to people what we were doing, and we're here for them and stuff like that. And it was a great time, good food, etc. So that's something that we want to really dive into. So if you ever have an event, think of us. We'll come. Yeah. So
I could talk all day about grouse.
Right.
Ruffed grouse.
Right.
Management, habitat, native shrubs.
Well, let's get for sure. Well, let's get Wesley on, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, today we have on Wesley Hodges for the rest of this episode. I'm gonna call you Wes because that is shorter and easier. Wes, how are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing great, sir.
Doing well. Now, I mentioned it before we hit record. I'm in a closed room, but behind both of you guys, it's 6:00 and there's some daylight showing, and it's early February, so that's always a good sign.
That's right. We're getting close to spring. Getting there.
Doesn't feel like it, but we are. The calendar says we are. Today was a step in that direction. But Wes, in our intro, we talked briefly about you. I'll give you the floor. Don't want to speak for you. I was telling Eric, it's you and I, the three of us, we don't know each other, which I think can make for a good podcast because you go into the conversation without any predisposition about who's on the other side of it. Wes, you and I talked last week. We had a good conversation over the phone for about half an hour. That's what motivated this podcast to happen. So I'm excited to dig into what you got to say about grouse here in Appalachia. But before we get into the good stuff, why don't you give everybody the rundown of who you are, where you came from, what you do, whole story.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Wes Hodges, born and raised in Texas. Family has a big piece of land out there in Texas, and I had quite possibly the most epic childhood known to man.
Nice.
Somewhere along the lines of Huckleberry Finn, but in Texas. It was pretty wild. I had 4 brothers. 9/11 happened my senior year in high school. I went right in the military after high school. Did that for just over 7 years. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. That process started out just as an old regular paratrooper, infantry guy, and then that progressed into me getting involved in some more specialized functions that I did, which kind of ended up me being in the sniper field of things. Got done. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Got done with all that stuff and moved to Virginia and went to school at Virginia Tech. Kind of got into a world in which I was going to kind of go back down that government route again, studied politics, double majored in Spanish, all that good stuff. Ended up let me backtrack there. While I was at Virginia Tech, I fell in love with smallmouth bass fishing on the New River down in Blacksburg. And that's not my first dose of fishing. I'd fished and hunted my entire life in Texas. But kind of gave that up while I was in the military. I go to college. While at Virginia Tech, fell in love with fly fishing, fell in love with smallmouth bass fishing on the New River, and started to guide it a little bit in between classes. But that was not my focal point. My focal point was going back down potentially going down this deep, dark road with the government again after college. That kind of led me to Ecuador, where I was down in Ecuador for a while, getting some, cultural acclimation, studying Spanish, different things like that, all for this potential of going into this field after college. I on a beach place called Los Montanita. Fell in love with surfing.
Nice.
My God.
Fell in love with homemade tequila. It said the hell
Well,
with
who wouldn't?
job. Yeah, exactly. A little tiki hut. I said the hell with this government job. I'm not doing it. And so I came back home, said I'm out. Didn't want to do that. But I wasn't ever in, but I was trying to get in. Pulled the packet, said I'm not doing this anymore, and I started a fly fishing business. Yeah. And that kind of started the whole process of me getting here to where I'm currently at today. I loved Virginia. I loved the river systems in Virginia. At the time, I really only knew the New River. I was still pretty virgin to the state of Virginia at that point. And this is 2013. But I just loved it. And there was no one here hunting or fishing really, except for the locals. And I just loved it. I traveled around the country hunting and fishing, been to different countries hunting and fishing. But I always came back to Virginia every single time. I don't know why. Because I loved it and it was awesome. And then about 2015, I had upland hunted a lot in the past, but never like with any real cojones to it. I started hearing about this ruffed grouse thing in Virginia. And people kept telling me they don't exist, but you could see them or you could hear them from time to time, and the bear hunters would talk about them. Oh yeah, we flushed a bunch of grouse over here in Jimmy John's Holler, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Where is that at? So I start researching on the map, and then it turned into this massive adventure of piecing together, local lingo to, old school paper maps and figuring out these areas where these grouse are supposedly being found at. And I fell in love with this process of looking for grouse. It's a treasure hunt, essentially, is what it was. Had Onyx been around back at that time frame, it would have seriously expedited this whole process. But what was really unique about it was I got to understand the Appalachian Mountains at a very intimate level. Just, you don't know where you're at. Someone says that this is the creek. You walk up the creek, up till lunch, and then you hang a right up on this mountaintop, and there's a cut up there. And then you do it. And then next thing you know, you start hitting these grouse. And there were many seasons of not finding any. I'm in the wrong spots. I wasn't in the right places. But once I started to pattern these birds, it became an everyday occurrence that you're finding these grouse, that you go out after. And so this was not like a 1 month, 2 month period. This was over the course of years of doing this. And then you get to the point to where you're at now, and you have this really in-depth, intimate knowledge of the Appalachian Mountains, the ruffed grouse, to include woodcock, which come through the mountains here. And it's this constant puzzle piece, chess game that you're playing with. And the grouse hunting in the Appalachian Mountains is far better than what people think it is. Far better. So I kind of got off on a tangent there, but that's essentially how the business got started. That's how I kind of tied bird hunting into it, was during the off season of fishing. I would bird hunt day and night, not day and night, but basically every day I would bird hunt. And I would go to Minnesota, go to Maine, go to South Dakota, chasing birds everywhere, but I always come back to Virginia, and I focused on grouse because I loved that Easter egg hunt. And just to hear one, to see one, was such a joy in my life that I just became addicted to it, which is where we're at today, where I'm guiding roughly 80 to 85 days during the season for grouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
What a story. Surfing in Ecuador. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a hell of a lot more involved in that. There's a lot more involved in that story. I was very.
Oh my God, I can't imagine around a campfire with a cocktail. I think we could really. Well, look, I tell you what. Before Cody jumps in here, it was funny. He goes, "Hey, I talked to a gentleman. This was the other day. Like, we're going to have him on our podcast." I'm like, "Cool, man." And he was telling me about you, and he sent me a video today. and it was Ghost Bird of Virginia.
Yeah.
And if there, I highly, people should go to your YouTube thing and watch that, because it was, the production, number one, is great. The story is phenomenal, and you learn about so much with you, the passion, everything with Ruffed Grouse, and just that short film.
Mm-hmm.
Cody and I do short films, and yeah, I'm a sucker for a good production and good story. And I mean, it was about the dogs, it was about the grouse, it was about this, it was about that. And it was phenomenal. Highly advise everybody go into YouTube and Ghost Bird of Virginia. I mean, that sums up everything, not about you, but what you're doing, that you're just not willy-nilly out there just doing whatever. Yeah, there's some passion amongst what you do, for sure.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a very cool story, and it was a very good project. My good buddy Spencer, who's you can look up his business in there. He's from the Appalachian Mountains as well, down in Floyd, and he gets it, and he does a lot of short stories about the Appalachian Mountains specific. He's a very talented guy, and his heart and soul belong to the mountains here in Virginia. And it shows in his work when he's video or showcasing the mountains. It's pretty impressive work. And it's that story is true. It's not fluffed up. I mean, grouse hunting hurts. It's physically demanding. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. And there's a lot of conservation, in that story of grouse hunting, that it's not for everyone. So the people that do it, there's layers of conservation that you can input into your hunting, adventures to help out with that keeping the birds there. And again, I get some flack from people that don't like me guiding commercially for grouse in Virginia. And we can dive into why that is. And I don't disagree with them, but I don't think that they see the full picture when they see that I'm commercially guiding for grouse. So that's a good.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned full picture, Wes, and that's, when you and I talked last week, I had messaged you on Instagram, just kind of, I didn't know you were as local to me as you are. Hell, you're right up the road. I knew you were in the area, but we're almost neighbors. But I just kind of sent out a message just to touch base and open a line of communication. We talked on the phone that afternoon, and I had the phone call was just to touch base, say, hey, how you doing, and see where it goes. And you and I had what I thought was a great phone call, and I wish we'd have recorded it. But to kind of tie it back to that full picture, what Eric and I do with Give for Grouse, it's to, especially in Appalachia, is to give grouse a voice, advocate for the species, advocate for forest management, and all that goes into that. And that's telling the whole story, telling the full picture. As I'm sure most people are aware, according to a lot of the research, a lot of the science, numbers are down. And that's no secret across the board. So we want to tell that side of the story. It's purely anecdotal, but from my perspective down here, and I don't have a fraction of the experience or the miles on my boots that you do, but the last few years, when my eyes and ears have been a little more open to grouse, I've kind of been like, is it as bad as they say? And not to diminish the research, not to diminish the work of biologists and wildlife professionals, but it's important for there to be accountability, and we shouldn't just blindly assume that things are the way they are because somebody tells us that. That applies to anything in life. So I want to give you the floor, because you mentioned it just a little bit ago that, grouse hunting in Appalachia isn't as bad as a lot of people say it is. In our phone call last week, you touched on and have a lot of, data or experience or numbers that you can back to say, and if you're willing to work for it, that the birds are there. So I want to give you the floor to take as much time as you need, go as many rabbit holes as you need to explain why you think, grouse are doing better in Virginia than what most people might think they are doing.
Man, that's a massive dance floor, and I can't dance that big. I think it's it's kind of wild. For the longest time, I was a member of a big hunt club called Clear Creek Hunt Club in West Virginia. And I'll pay the membership dues and I'd go there and grouse hunt, and I might find, and I wasn't hunting as much as I am in Virginia, but I might find a couple birds here and there. May have shot a handful total over 3 or 4 years. I couldn't justify the cost for doing that, for finding a couple birds. I'd go to Maine and we'd hunt Maine for, 10 days. And, some years were really good. Some years were really bad. Minnesota, same thing. Virginia, same thing. And, one of the things I started to realize is just like, is it the state or is it the species? Is Virginia really that bad, or is the species that sensitive? I argue this: the species is that sensitive. Talked to a really close friend of mine in Maine, a lodge that I used to help manage early on in my guiding career, and that's where I fell in love with the lodging component of hospitality, of the outdoor industry. He was in Maine. 7 days they found one bird, he said. That is Maine. That is the mecca of grouse hunting. Where we found 45 in a week. Does that mean
Virginia?
Does that mean that Virginia is a better grouse state than Maine? According to 99% of the population, absolutely not. According to the data, according to the biology reports, absolutely not. But however, one bird, 7 days, versus 45 in a week here. The same week. It's not so much that the state of Virginia is going extinct on grouse. I don't believe that. I really don't believe that. And I will challenge you guys again. Mike Carpenter, write his name down. There is no grouse hunter that I've ever met alive in this country that is anywhere close to him in terms of grouse hunting. And he lives in Harrisonburg. There's no man that puts up as many grouse in any state as much as this man does in the state of Virginia.
Yep. I got his name written down. I remember you telling me about it last week.
He helps me guide from time to time. He's an absolute animal when it comes to grouse hunting. And his dogs are out of this world. And he's incredible. So I hope he listens to this, because he's probably like, please God, not another podcast for me. But he's worth talking to.
Yeah, we know the feeling.
Yeah, because he works with a biologist, and he has unique information, and he sees the birds at a different level, and he chases them year round. He looks for them in the spring and the summer while he's mountain bike riding. This is what he does. He lives and breathes grouse hunting. Last year, roughly 600 flushes is what myself, my other guide, and Mike, one of my guides, found cumulatively. About 600 flushes last year in Virginia.
Wow.
Yep. And that's, granted, those are not hardcore numbers. That could have been repetitive birds flushing from the same cuts, whatever it is. That's 600 flushes that we found last year. This year, up until this snowstorm we just had, and we kind of shut the whole business down, myself, my other guy, Jamie, we're encroaching on 250 alone. So we guided way more woodcock hunts this year than last year. So it's kind of hard the numbers kind of get convoluted, but 250 grouse between two guys versus a population of people saying they don't exist or the numbers are going down. I challenge everyone to say that the only thing that's lacking in grouse hunting in Virginia is people's ambition to find them. That's my challenge to people. Is, are you willing to take that extra step, which leads to another mile, which leads to another mile, which adds to another 1,000 feet in elevation gain? Are you willing to go that extra step to find them? And now that's where the conflict comes in with people that say it's wrong that you're commercially guiding for a species that potentially is going to be extinct or is endangered. 600 birds, we harvested less than 7 birds last year.
Wow.
That's a very low percentage number there.
Very low.
Yeah. Because it's not, first off, finding them is one thing. A dog pointing them is a whole nother thing. Then catching up to your dog on point adds another layer of complication. Then you get up there and you can't breathe let alone you just slipped on a tree log. Now you're not even have a good shot. That bird's gone. So shooting a grouse in the mountains is very difficult, let alone finding them and then having a dog that can point them. So it's a whole layer of complications that need to be, it gets factored into this grouse hunting and the success rate of it. For me, a success rate is a flush. I just love seeing them. I love hearing them. I love watching the dogs work them. To harvest one, when a client actually harvests one, I am no different than a 7-year-old on Christmas morning, running through the woods, hugging dogs, hugging people, high-fiving everyone, phones coming out, just showing excitement for everyone involved, because it is such a rare feat to get them. Not a rare feat to find them. It's a rare feat to harvest one. And 100% of the clients that harvest a bird, they get it mounted. It's on their office.
Yeah. They're a gorgeous bird. So my question would be, you've got your evidence to say that the birds are doing as well as they are. And, it's difficult to measure that or to quantify that, just as it's difficult for people who are saying that they're not doing very well. It's difficult for that person to quantify it, to put a number or a grade to it. From your perspective, where is the disconnect? Do you think it's just from a lack of investment in finding the birds from a state agency's perspective? Is it, because down here there's so much national forest, which I'm sure you guys hunt. You can't cover it all from DWR's perspective. So I look at what they're doing with drumming surveys and ARUs and the hunter flush rate, and it's such a small sample size that they can't cover it all. And then you guys, there's not a bird behind every tree. You're having to work your rear end off to find them. But where do you think is the disconnect between people like yourself, who I think I'm in the middle? There's people like yourself who think they're doing better, or who knows they're doing better than what most people say. There's other people who think that the next one's going to fall out of the sky tomorrow and we're back at ground zero. Yeah. Where do you think that disconnect is, or how?
That's a good question. And by no means am I saying that grouse hunting in Virginia is epic. I'm not saying that, because to say that it's epic, I had to see it 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And I just have not seen that. And I think a lot of the numbers are based off of that 30, 40 years ago. It's a good thing that we don't base today off of 40 years ago, because I'd be thrown away, because I'm nowhere close to the caliber person I was 40 years ago or 30 years ago. The same thing for the country. Just because we're not the same 40 today as we were 40 years ago doesn't mean that it's wasted time, or we just need to throw it away and start over again. It's more of a process of, again, how can we do better? That is the question needs to be asked, is what can we do to sustain it and then grow it, so that we're not just throwing it away. I don't know what Virginia was like 40 years ago. I hear the rumors. I've read some books. I hear that it was incredible. Logging is not the same as it was 40 years ago as it is today. Certain states like Maine, logging is the same. The same families own all the acreage of Maine. They can cut whatever the hell they want to, right, when they want to, based off what the market says. That's the difference. National forest is controlled in many different levels. It's got to appease many different people, because it's not just about hunters. It's about mountain bikers. It's about kayakers, tubers, whatever the hell it is. It's the people's land, not just grouse hunters. So no, I don't believe we should cut everything down. Do I think that cutting massive tracts of land would help? I do believe that. Right now, what we see in Virginia, and by the way, Virginia, in the National Forest in Virginia, they cut a lot of timber here, a lot. There are hundreds and hundreds of acres of 2022, 2021, 2025, 2019 cuts that we're just foaming at the mouth waiting for them to get ready. And they're contiguous and actually are layered in. So there's multi-age class cuts touching each other. So that's going to be epic grouse country when it's done. And I think I talked to you about that. There are ridge tops that are cut off. There are hundreds and hundreds of acres. Is it the same as having 4,000 acres of a 15-year age class, 4,000 acres of a 10-year age class, and 4,000 acres of a brand new clear cut? No, we don't have that in Virginia. We have, I call it pocket cutting. I'm sure there's an actual term for it, which they're cutting small 100-acre to 50-acre tracts, and that's it. That's what you have.
Yeah.
What that, in my opinion, what that does for the grouse is it basically consolidates them into that really good cover. And well, when you get all the birds into one cover, that's like having all your chickens in one basket, all your eggs in one basket, if you will. Predation can just sit on the fringes and pick them off as they need to, rather than having a multi-age class cut so they can jump back and forth as they need to. Does that kind of make sense? One of the issues we have in Virginia?
Yes.
Okay. But Virginia is cutting. They're cutting quite a bit, actually. I can show you guys on my phone just dozens and multi-dozens of spots of less than 5-year cuts. And we have multi-dozens of 15 to 20-year cuts. And a lot of times we focus on those 15 to 20-year cuts. We love those cuts. But that's not the only place we focus on. Again, I think these birds, we as grouse hunters, we focus on what the history books tell us and where we traditionally see them. Oh, yeah, your 10 to 15-year cut, you should be bleeding when you walk out of there. It should be painful to hunt in those cuts, blah, 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 blah. Well, grouse aren't as stupid as we think they are, especially the ones in Virginia. I believe these birds have learned to adapt and go to habitat that nature provides for themselves. For example, a deep holler that is absolutely slap full of muscadine vines.
Right.
It has not seen a skidder in 40 years. However, for some reason, there's 8 grouse sitting in there because it's perfect habitat, perfect cover. They got plenty of food. They got water running down that draw. They have muscadine vines creating little grouse hotels. They can live happy in that holler for forever. Then on top of that, you have long linear ridge tops that are relatively flat, meaning there's very little elevation gain. Some of these go on for 30 miles in the Virginia. These ridge tops are wind blown, meaning that the wind comes, blows these trees completely off the ridge top, creates epic habitat, epic. And not a man has touched those trees, and the birds are packed in there. So a lot of people are wanting to hunt these perfect age class cuts, but they're missing where the birds are really at because they've adapted to predation.
God, this is so insightful.
Yeah,
we needed to hear this. I mean,
which coincides with the fact that the biologists, they're going to their 10-year cut and they're listening.
Yeah.
Whereas
let me interrupt you real quick. I mean, our goal here is, we normally don't ask tough questions or anything like that. And we never try to divide the sportsman with the state agency. We're very pro state agency and what have you. But with that being said, so I asked this question to you that let's not attack the state agency. Let's try to make them better. Right.
Yep.
For the sportsman in the natural resources. So with that being said, what would be one of the things that the state of Virginia, their Division of Wildlife, if you will, could do better? Is it advocating? Is it as any state agency? Excuse me for interrupting you. But state agencies are understaffed. They're under the fiscal is not what it could be and wish it was and all that stuff. And so with that being said, what could they be doing to, help the resource out? I mean, it's a pretty broad question.
I get along great with the state agencies too. The game wardens, the game departments, all these guys I do. Now, granted, I'm talking about national forest, not state agency here. We don't hunt grouse on any state land. It's all national forest. The state lands, for example, all the wildlife management areas. Have you guys ever hunted Virginia Wildlife Management Area?
No.
They're quite incredible.
In a positive sense, or?
They cut the hell out of their land. They burn the hell out of their land. They do a good job managing their property. They really do. Yep. Excellent. At the state level. National forest is a different ball game.
Yeah.
You're You go up to that level of oversight, the national forest controlled by the government, that's a whole nother layer of complications and regulations you have to dabble with. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say I'm hunting public land. It is national forest.
Yeah.
I work close with some of the national forest representatives in my district. They work with me. We both understand the dilemmas that we have, and I got one handcuff, they got another handcuff. So it's kind of like, I don't know I can give you one hand, but my other one's tied. So it's complex, and we do understand that. From a state level, one of the requests that I've made to some people is why would so just bear with this long answer here.
You're fine.
Why would a state or the national forest invest money into something that doesn't yield monetary value back? Which goes into, again, one of the argumentative points people have on me is you're taking from public land, you're harvesting birds on public land for profit. More than profit, it is awareness on what the national forest has. Because if we rely just on local grouse hunters, which there's like 7.
Right. Yeah.
So the state of Virginia totals about $300 in grouse hunting license sales. Sorry, we're not going to go in and dump $3 million into your project for $300. However, Wes Hodges generated potentially $300,000 in grouse hunting trips. Now, what's going on here? There's a whole movement. Why not invest some money into this grouse hunting thing? Because Wes has 180 clients that purchase fish or hunting licenses for grouse hunting. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we have some data, financial data, to say, okay, there is some real investment we can make here because people are traveling in from France, Canada, Texas, stuff like that to hunt birds in the state of Virginia. So let's focus on what's going on here. So that's if I could change anything about the national forest, and it's really at the state level for me. I just don't think that it's a long game for the national forest, meaning that to change some policies and regulations on cutting. But the state of Virginia, one of the biggest arguments I have is having species-specific licensing. If you want to grouse hunt, you purchase a grouse permit or a grouse license. That way the state can see, okay, cool, we've sold
whatever
the number is. Okay, this year we sold $400,000 in grouse licenses. The next year we sold $1.5 million in grouse licenses. Okay, grouse hunting is growing in the state of Virginia. Let's start pumping some money into this and keep conserving the birds, managing our resources, making things better. But right now, any deer hunter or small game hunter can buy a license, shoot a grouse off the road with a 410 pistol, go home, and be done with it. And I don't think that's okay, personally. There's no way to track that data.
Yeah. I think that is a wonderful point. I mean, it's I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's something I've thought of, but it's coming from like a more deer background. Big bucks are the business. That's that's the phrase in the hunting industry. Why it fuels everything. And state agencies, they listen to their constituents. Let's give them credit. On one side of the coin, most of their constituents are deer hunters. That's who they cater to. I think that's a phenomenal point. And it's we talk about advocating for the species, and there's a lot that goes into that. But how you just laid that out, I think, is a phenomenal perspective and approach, because you have this tangible evidence to it, and it's not just like you said. 3 of us we buy a state hunting license, we go shoot a grouse. Well, that's the end of it. If you have these numbers to say, as you just laid it out, then it makes sense for people to get on board. They understand that there's numbers behind it, there's dollars behind it, there's birds on the landscape, and then that incentivizes management for the species. That's a phenomenal approach to advocating for a species and getting work done. That is real management on a landscape scale. And that's what we talk about, for habitat, it's got to happen at a landscape scale. We don't unpack the advocacy side of things as much and as nearly as detailed as you did. And for change to happen, as far as advocating and giving it a voice, it's got to happen at a landscape scale. And how you just laid all that out was phenomenal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is the old adage goes, just follow the money. I mean, you follow the money, and that's where the change is going to occur. I mean, we can fight tooth and nail for grouse or whatever, but you're talking taxpayer dollars, license fees, going into something that's not growing. That is wasteful spending. But if we can start growing it and tracking it and taking information to the state level or the national forest even, saying, hey, look, this is growing based off license sales, based off this, based off that, we need to do something to help manage this better. We need to cut more. And I am a huge proponent of cutting. There is not an animal in the forest that will not benefit from cutting. There's nothing that does not benefit from cutting. Nothing. We all know, we've all heard all the podcasts talking about cut everything down and you'll have more animals everywhere. So I'm a huge proponent of that. But also, my daughter doesn't care much about hunting, or she wants animals to all do whatever, and she wants to pet deer. And sure, I do love a good 50-year-old oak forest so she can walk through it and pick mushrooms. I love that. But I think cutting is absolutely significant. Burning is absolutely significant and necessary. But I don't see, from what I see, I don't think that cutting is the only way to fix the problem. I do not believe that. I think education, I think the awareness, I think that businesses like mine profiting by bringing in people that don't understand it or know about it. I think that is important as well. Again, that's that full picture that we're talking about here. There are so many grouse hunters out there that have never in their wildest dreams known what a colt's foot is.
Yeah.
It's a significant plant that these grouse eat on. And there's a certain type of topography and soil these things they to grow in. That's where they get a lot of liquid for their diet, is from that colt's foot. There's just so much awareness and education you can provide people that is just all a lot of people hear is cut. But I don't think the grouse, yes, they need it, especially the young birds, the 1-year-old birds that are just
brooding and everything else, rearing and everything.
Exactly right. They need it. But the adult birds, the one that survived a few seasons, the ones that have survived a few owl blasts, out of a tree, those birds know where to go. Yeah. They know how to hide. Okay, it's the young bird. Sorry, guys, I got a train.
No, you're fine.
So that's why I think cuts are great. They're incredible. They do help stabilize the bird population and let young birds grow up to get older, to get more smarter, I should say. But cutting is not the only answer to the grouse problem. It's awareness. It's money. It's some of it is, in my opinion, letting nature do its course, like these ridge tops. You find a good ridge that's 30 miles long with a road on top, or just a trail. Watch what happens when you grouse hunt it.
I'll tell you what, it says a lot. I'll give you a lot of credit for just being open and honest and saying that it takes money, because. Yep. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I think it takes some stones to be pretty open about that, because that's what Eric and I sing from the mountaintop, is to cut and forest management and logging and all that goes into it. And we echo everything you just said. Don't get me wrong. That is 100% part of it. But let's not ignore that it's 2026 and what moves the needle is dollars and cents. I'll use an example. It's apples to oranges. But Eric and I talk about this, and it applies to all wildlife species. When an animal has value, then it's protected and it has a future. And the example I point to is from way across the pond in Pakistan, the markhor is an endangered species, and I'm not going to pretend to know the numbers behind it. I've been to Pakistan, but I didn't hunt markhor. But whenever they started hunting, numbers were painfully low on the endangered species through regulated hunting and an investment of thousands upon thousands of dollars. They're taking very few off the landscape, just as you guys are doing. 600 flushes, but you're shooting 7 birds. It's a pretty big discrepancy. It's being very selective in your harvest. Ever since they started pouring money into the resource, into the species, the markhor populations have gone up. Apples to oranges comparison. I get it. I understand it. But the principle is the same. When you invest in something in its future, then it's always going to have a future. So I'm going to be honest. I never thought of laying it out or communicating that way, but it makes a lot of sense. It needed to be said.
It's like with any wildlife species, there's wildlife management. We got the data, got this, got that. The data shows this, and then there's wildlife science, and then there's what's all that I said, and then you have political science. And political science is not just necessarily legislation, dictating X or Y, in the deer world, baiting versus non-baiting, whatever, but it sums up everything that you just said. There's the wildlife science, and then there's definitely the political science behind it. You show me that there is something to push here, and again, it kind of goes back to advocacy, and that's one thing too. It's I don't have a dog in the fight and what you have to deal with outside noise with people. Do I see both sides? I haven't had time to think about it, but one thing that keeps this whole conversation from the time Cody pushed play or record, I was trying to think how to answer that, and I keep going pro what you're doing because it does tell a story, like that video Ghost Bird of Virginia. It's that, because you do get to take somebody out to have an experience. They get a personal connection with not just the grouse, whether it's woodcock or just the scenery. It's this. Grouse hunting is like the day of yore. It's like hunting back in the 80s, when your grandpa and stuff like that. It gives you that opportunity to slow down. So for people that are complaining or, not that's a wrong word, but just don't see your side of things. I don't know if that's even correct. You have to look at it on that side of the coin, because you are giving the species a voice. You're giving the sport of hunting a voice.
Yep.
And Cody and I, we always, we've heard a lot of numbers, and I deal with it in Ohio. Cutting back on counties, cutting back on harvests, or state of Indiana, they just shut the season down completely. Wait till the grouse was phenomenal in the state of Indiana. Cody can give you the numbers on that. I can't remember them, but now there's no voice, there's no passion, there's no nothing, there's no personal connection. So having people do what you're doing, I can't see a negative. I mean, I'm sure there is, but I'm not seeing it. I'm just, that's winning over the other.
No. I think that, it's again, I don't think the vast majority of the time, there's very few people on this planet that dislike me. They just don't know the full spectrum, the scope of everything. That's the problem, is that they don't know the full story, or they don't understand it from a different lens. That is the problem, I think, that people see. Again, I am fortunate. I'm not a religious person, but I think that God of the universe gives you the child as a parent that you need to have. I got my daughter, who does not care about hunting at all.
Right.
So she gives me a different perspective on this hunting stuff. I'm over here, getting after a dog, and she's like, "Oh, he just wants to play today." I'm like, "You're right. He does just want to play." Yeah.
Get in the corner. You're in timeout.
Exactly. And it's the same thing, the same thing with people that don't want timber cut. It's just like, hey man, I just want to walk and look at the huge trees out here. Like there's a 150-year-old tree. I see a 150-year-old tree. I'm like, cut that sumbitch down. That's about 75,000 Beretta shotgun butt stocks right there. Cut it down. But it's a different lens, and I think that all of those do need to be taken in. And the same thing on the hunting side is that even as hunters, there's different lenses we can look at, inside of our own little lanes here. The West, Montana, Idaho would not be a smidgen on the wall if it was not for guiding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. It gives it's access to people who otherwise wouldn't be out there. And I mean, gosh, how many people from here would have never experienced a mule deer hunt, heard an elk bugle, if it weren't, and the same applies, to guiding for grouse. How many people would have never seen a grouse flush or, seen a grouse in high stem, in a high stem density cut, if it weren't for guiding and outfitting? I do a lot of filming all over the world, and with guides and outfitters and hunters, and the respect of a guide and the outfitter is at the top of my priority list when I'm filming a hunt. So you have my full support and backing. I understand what it takes for you guys to make it work, but I've never thought of it from the perspective that you're sharing now, and never seen it honestly as communicated as clearly. Sorry, Eric, I didn't mean to talk over you, but go ahead.
No. It's just, and again, not to make it awkward, nothing like that. It's just, I can see somebody after they listen to this DM Cody or I or both of us, like, hey, well, what do you expect an outfitter to say? Of course the numbers are up, right? I see, I got this many. What do you think he's going to say? And I want to push back on those people because it's, again, those people are looking, they don't know you. Mm-hmm. They're just assuming. I know it's just a silly video, but that video told me so much, and just this conversation that, you do have a business. Of course, you have some interest in it and stuff. That's the obvious. But I got this feeling that, could be wrong, could not be, could be right. But I just don't see that being the push.
It's a fair question. It's you're 100% right.
Yeah.
I could lie to you, and I'd be out of business next year.
Did I say 600? I meant 1,200. I got hit in the head with a woodcock the other day. It was
But no, you're right, and it's something that my guide team and I, we are public land guides. That's what we do. We guide public land fish, public land birds. We dabble with some public land deer. Occasionally, it's more of an educational base, more of an experience that we do when we do deer hunting. Like, we teach people how to effectively hunt deer. That's one side of our business. Public land turkey, and it's hard. It is tough as shit. It is so tough. And there is no stronger advocate for the wild game on public land than some crazy buffoon who starts a business hunting public land.
Yeah.
We want it just as bad as any local guy. We want to get it. The only thing I'd say that's probably different is the experience that we're going to build in with the clients that a local probably won't build in for himself. Meaning he's probably not out there, making fresh made soup and grilled cheese sandwiches on a grouse hunt, in the middle of the national forest. Maybe he is, maybe he's not, but we do. So we have to build in a whole experience package into these hunts, because there are days in which we're not successful. We don't find a bird. We don't get a flush. Dogs blow up points. We make the wrong pot call on a gobbler, and it happens. And it's one of those things. But we, as public land guides, my guide team and I, we are in this constant pursuit of this self-perceived perfection every day that we go out in the woods, that we're driven by that, like the collision between nature and man, truly wild game and man, like that is what we're addicted to, that point of equilibrium in which we get an opportunity to harvest one of these animals. That's what we're driven by every day. That includes fish, that includes turkey, deer, grouse, woodcock, all the above. Yeah.
So I just want to pivot real quick. Cody usually has a question that he asked the guest, but I want to pivot just a little bit here because it is part of the story. And I didn't realize, how much it was part of the grouse story. And for people that don't grouse hunt, you might not understand, but dogs, like the biggest thing in your short film there, it's just the dog aspect of it. How the relationship with the dogs, just everything about the dogs. Like I know when I grouse hunt or bird hunt, I had a smile. I went to South Dakota real quick. I hunted sharptails for the first time, and my dog was a rock star. At least I felt in my eyes. And the smile I had, and I only shot one, and it was just the most phenomenal. I couldn't stop talking about it. When my dog pointed his first woodcock, it was like I got lucky enough to kill it. But it was just like that relationship even just exaggerates the passion for the species itself. Correct?
Yep. Oh my God, yeah. Again, and that's what, again, kind of going back to what I was saying about we love this pursuit of wild game, and in upland hunting, using dogs, we're adding another layer of complication to that because, we have, hopefully a dog handler has about 3 or 4 commands that he verbalizes, not to confuse the dog, And so from there, but we're trying to communicate with a dog, and we're trying to hunt with the natural environment, meaning wind and rain and snow. And like once you take off on a trail in the mountains, like you don't get to just flip flop with the wind. You've got to go with it.
Yeah.
And your dog has to adapt to that too, which is really unique. And all my dogs, I have a lot of dogs. All my dogs are specifically trained on wild birds. They do run about between maybe no more than 5 preserve hunts in a year at all. But outside of that, they are running on nothing but wild birds, grouse and woodcock. That's all they ever see. But they're specifically trained on grouse up by a man in Minnesota who that's what he does. He runs grouse dogs. Specifically grouse hunting dogs. He starts training them when the training season comes open, and he puts them on grouse from the day one until the day it closes for the weather. And that's all my dogs see is grouse, grouse, grouse. And they still mess it up. The same way that I still mess up my shots.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah. But that's the cool part about it that I love is that this teamwork, between man, dog, the wildest bird you're going to find in the Appalachian Mountains. And it's this weird, it's all got to come together on the perfect day, at the perfect time, at the perfect point, with the perfect shot. And if any one of those falls apart, it's still a successful hunt, which I'm addicted to it. I love it. I think it's the coolest damn thing that man has ever created was upland hunting for grouse.
So with that being said, my dog is, he'll be 7 in April. So I'm on the radar to get another dog, but we got to get Mr. Altizer here taking that step. He's a big advocator, big conservationist. He's a hunter, but we got to get him a long-tailed dog, a setter preferably, and so he can.
I'm transitioning from setters. I am. The maintenance is crazy on them.
Oh my God! If there is a burr, they're going to find it.
They'll find it,
right? I mean, what are you transitioning into?
German short hairs.
Oh, fuck it.
I know.
Right,
I know.
It's cutting out. Never mind.
Yeah. So I've got two setters. They're really good dogs. They're from the Hornada bloodline. They're incredible dogs. My oldest dog, Duke, he may be on his last season. I'll try to get one more out of him. I can woodcock hunt with him a little bit more. Ella, my female, same bloodlines. But I mean, the maintenance is just crazy on them.
Oh, no.
That is probably the only downfall. The thing that I miss the most about being a recreational hunter is the relationship. I love my dogs dearly. I love my dogs dearly the same way that a mechanic loves his crescent wrenches. But I miss the relationship between a recreational hunter and a dog. I miss that connection.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because mine sleeps in our bed, and we have conversations, and he's it's just everything.
That's right.
He's my he's one of my best friends, and
that's right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
mine are. I do miss that relationship because I've had it in my past. And it was a great relationship, and they in the truck with me, they go in the bars with me, they do everything with me. Not authorized, but they would go into the bar with me.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
that homemade tequila that you're drinking, that dog going anywhere you want.
But now it's a legitimate commercial operation. I've got dogs in training. I've got dogs that I'm about to breed. I've got dogs that are here, and they have to be on a rotation, and it's medicine, and it's this, and it's that. Yeah. It's very transactional now. I still love the dogs to death. I play with them as much as I can, but it's not the same as it is for you and your dog. It's not the same, and I do long for that. I will get there again, but for now, it's commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, excellent.
But I will be breeding 2 Rockstar GSPs here in the near future, and they'll be right here in Glen Wilton, and they're going to be they're absolute gangsters on grouse GGs, grouse gangsters.
Grouse gangsters.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
God, geez.
T-shirt idea right there. Write that one down.
We're just stealing that. I'm sorry. That's going to be a T-shirt. Yeah, don't be surprised if you see that again.
Yeah,
popping up.
Yeah.
I tell you, this has been phenomenal. Throughout all of it, I'm, my mind's going in a dozen different directions, and trying to pull out this for a reel, or trying to make mental notes on this, that, and the other. The title, in so many words, will be the full picture on ruffed grouse in Appalachia, or grouse management, or full pic. That's what we went into it. That's what I gave you the floor to do, Wes, in the beginning, and
we needed this
for sure. We did,
and I think it's good.
Did too.
I don't know if you guys are wanting to close shop here or not, but I do want to leave it with this, though, from my perspective, is the loggers are critical. That has to happen. To have a grouse population continue to grow, the loggers have to happen. It has to. The guiding, maybe not the guiding, but, so long as the government continues to issue permits, guiding is going to happen. Okay. But it needs to happen because that's the fastest way to show data points and financials, as well as to educate people on what's going on, because there's not many locals giving away their grouse pots.
True.
Okay. But then on the flip side of that, on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, I truly believe too, that the non-loggers, the non-hunters, they need to play a part too, because they are going to be the balancing act in how much we take and how much we give. And I think that convincing them or educating them and showing them some of the benefits of it is going to allow them to ease up on the regulation and allow us to have a little bit more, so that they can still have a piece of what they're looking for, which is animal viewings, birding, whatever that looks like. It's gonna just everyone has to play together. Everyone does. I do believe that.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Eric and I have talked about it. I mean, and hunting is a phenomenal tool, and I don't have to preach into the choir, but we shouldn't shy away from that being the vehicle to educate people about the species. Eric and I talk about ruffed grouse, especially around here. They're just few and far between, and you guys know what I mean by that. But there's you don't see them every day. I mean, you can walk by them, and if they don't flush, they could be 20 yards beside you, and they just decided to not fly. They felt good enough in their cover that day and decided to not fly. And we talk about it. It's like, Eric and I, I'm not a grouse hunter, but I just love the bird, love to film them on a drumming log. Eric does the same up there. If you were to put somebody in our blinds 10 yards from a ruffed grouse on a drumming log on a spring morning, when they hop up, you can damn near set your clock to it. You can hear turkeys start gobbling. They start to gobble in the morning in the distant whippoorwills. They start to get a little quieter here and there. And that's about the same time in the middle of both of those is when he hops up on the log. And you can sit and you can watch him drum all morning, or watch him preen himself, or watch him forage in between drums. Anybody, hunter or not, you give them that experience, they're going to want to do whatever it takes to make sure that bird has a future.
Absolutely.
And that's a really good point, Wes. I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it the way that you did, because it's going to take all of us. Because Eric and I, in our first however many episodes that we've done, we're almost hoarse from saying we need to log, we need to cut. We agree that's part of it. We need to hunt the species. That's when an animal has value, it has a future. Oftentimes what gives that animal the most value is hunting. Right. But that missing component, which the three of us know, and I'm glad that you said it, is that middle ground. That's what decides elections, because you have people on the far right, you have people on the far left. The people in the middle are who decide elections. The people in the middle are who are going to decide the future of wildlife populations. Non-hunters, anti-loggers, those people in the middle are who we need to connect with and educate and advocate about the species.
Yeah, and we do as a guide team, we have these undisclosed SOPs that it's our own conservation practices. I mean, we want the birds to survive, obviously, for a multitude of reasons. Some of that being, honestly, financially. We want to continue to run people on trips. We have a rule: we harvest a bird, we don't hunt that area again. You harvest a bird, you don't hunt that region, that area again, because we want to make sure that there are breeders still available to breed the next generations. That's what we do as guides. Call that our upfront investment for the next year. And so it works. It pays off. And we talk about grouse populations. The guides, my turkey guides, when they're out in the spring, I think I told you on this. They were hunting in this region. I had a couple guides out hunting this one area together, two different groups, but together because the gobblers were moving everywhere, and they were surrounded by drumming grouse. A turkey would gobble, a grouse would drum. That drum set off the turkey, and it just continued going, and there's drumming happening everywhere, all around this massive basin, this bowl in the mountains. And there's birds gobbling and drumming everywhere.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and it's. I personally do not believe that we as humans. I can put it to you this way: knowing how hard it is to hunt a grouse in the Appalachian Mountains, we are not capable of getting rid of these birds. We're not. We don't shoot good enough. We can't walk fast enough.
Yeah.
Now the owls and the other predators, they might, but we as humans won't do it. There are so many grouse that are far back in there that people have not seen or touched. We won't get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wanted to pick your brain about, Wes, is where you find the most birds in those, what habitat types, what age class of cuts. And, I'm glad you mentioned too that they've kind of adapted to those natural made habitats or disturbances. Cause I'm like you, and again, I have the fraction of the experience and the knowledge about it, but it's the more I have my eyes and ears open to it, the more I'm looking for birds, the more I learn about them. I think they're a hell of a lot tougher than we give them credit for. I think they're a lot more adaptable than what we give them credit for as well. But my question is, where? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an open-ended question, but are they on those north-facing kind of poplar coves where you were talking about, southwest-facing timber cuts? I mean, it's a 6 one, half a dozen the other. But what type of habitats do you most often find birds?
We find them in the traditional habitats. Your cuts. They call that traditional. Your 10 to 15, sometimes even 20-year, depends on a 20-year cut, depending upon the side of the mountain it's on, how much sunlight it gets, how much water it gets, is going to grow at a different level. It could be a 20-year cut that looks the same as a 10-year cut, depending upon where it's at in that topography. So the age class, we talk about most of the guides, it's like, oh, it's a 10-year cut, it's prime habitat. Most people are like, what are you talking about? That's not right. Or a 25-year cut can be prime habitat. It just depends. But then we look for habitat that has a cut somewhere in the vicinity of it. And then adjacent to that could be massive tracts of mountain laurel or evergreens or something like that provides a lot of ground foliage. We see a lot of birds in places like that. We see a lot of birds in places that are really deep cut hollers, as they call them around here, hollers. Those hollers do not receive a lot of sunlight. They have a lot of deadfall that pile up on itself. Okay. Grouse love deadfall. Vines love deadfall. Mushrooms love deadfall, decaying forest. Grouse love mushrooms. They love muscadine. They love all this different stuff. So you find these deep hollers, ones that people don't want to walk up. There's probably going to be a bird stuck in there somewhere. Ridge tops that go for miles and miles on end. There's a lot of them in Virginia. We are blessed with long, linear ridge tops. Those ridge tops, especially the highest ones in the area, they receive a massive amount of wind that just blows into them, knocks trees over. You can even see it. The tree growth, they're stunted. They're smaller trees, like scrub brush almost. They get blown down, and it's just prime habitat on top of ridges. Prime habitat. The problem is, how do you get to them? If you can't drive, you got to bushwhack. And so you're talking going from 1,500 feet in elevation up to 4,000, 4,200 feet in elevation in a sheer climb. But to get there, once you get up top of it, then you're bushwhacking the whole way. And it's primo habitat. We find them there during seasons of drought. We'll find them in typically kind of more open oak flats, oak forests, where the mushrooms are growing up. They get a lot of moisture. I heard a rumor from a guy who trains my dogs in Minnesota that a grouse never sticks its beak in water its whole life. They get all the moisture they need for their body through vegetation, through mushrooms, through different types of vegetation. I've personally never seen a grouse drink water, personally. So that makes sense. So if you can, during drought seasons, if you can find areas where there is ferns, mushrooms, stuff like that growing up, then you'll typically will find birds sitting in those locations. Food is the number one source. Find food, find the right habitat, you'll find the birds, guaranteed. I don't think there's an old, rumor, I guess you say, maybe from biologists, I think I read it somewhere, that a grouse born in the perfect habitat, the habitat being food, cover, low predation, stuff like that, will not venture more than a mile from where it's born. That's what they say. I don't know how accurate that is. But in Virginia, these cuts that we have, most of them are not bigger than 30, 40 acres.
Yeah.
That's maybe a quarter of a mile. So the birds are going to have to separate out. It's almost like a self-regulation that they have to separate out. The hens push them out of their brood hatches. They go and find their places to go. So they have, it seems to me, from what I see and where I find birds at, they have adapted to their topography, their region they live in, to survive. Some of them are in pine flats high on a mountain. Some of them are in laurel beds on slopes. Some of them are in cuts, and they're all over the place. Now, it's rare that you find more than 3 or 4 birds in one cut. It seems like you find a breeding pair typically, and then during the early fall, you'll find a brood hatch that has not been busted up yet. Typically in the fall, the hen will bust up the brood hatch. The chicks will go out and separate. We typically see those typically in early November, but we still have seen those today. 4 or 5 birds at a time flushing out like a cub grouse.
Right.
I think that those are young birds that are in the right cover, the right habitat, that just have no need to leave. They stay together the whole time. That's right.
Interesting.
Well, makes sense. I tell you, it's interesting. I love hearing your perspective. And, Eric and I have talked about this because grouse, they're the most widely distributed game bird in North America, from North Georgia to Alaska, and a lot of them, damn near most places in between. But when I do anyway, and I think a lot of people are guilty of this as well, when they think of ruffed grouse and they think of ruffed grouse habitat, even me where I grew up and where I know grouse, I think of the Northwoods. That's what I think of when I think of ruffed grouse habitat. And that's one thing I want to accomplish personally and honestly, selfishly with this podcast, is unpacking grouse in Appalachia. And even as far north as Eric, because he's kind of in some foothills, in east central Ohio, but then you get into West Virginia, western North Carolina. It's a ruffed grouse. It's the same species, but it's an entirely different bird, and the principles apply. They need that thick cover. They need high stem density, but like you mentioned, you find grouse in areas that it doesn't really follow the grouse habitat playbook. And I think that speaks to the species here in Appalachia, again, going back to how they're a lot smarter, a lot tougher, and a lot more adaptable than what we give them credit for. I think as a whole, they're kind of a fragile species, but on the other side of the coin, I think they're not. I think we should start giving them more credit because they persist in areas where it just doesn't check those boxes that say this is what grouse habitat should be. Yet the grouse are there. They don't care. Like, they're making do with it.
Yeah. They're way smarter than people. Yes, they're at the bottom of the food chain in the woods. They're way smarter than people give them credit for. They're way smarter than hunters give them credit for sometimes. Well, grouse hunters, people that have hunted grouse, that have been around grouse, they know how smart they can be. They'll run on you. They'll run circles around a dog and then flush behind you. And they do all kinds of wild stuff. I do believe that they are adaptable. They are currently adapting to their environment. Who the hell are we to think that we're going to get rid of a species? That takes a lot of work to get rid of a species, which is why to claim that our animal is endangered or extinct, that's a huge thing to say. And if it comes to that, then we have legitimately failed something. Think about the animals that we claim that are extinct. What is it? The white rhino was the most recent one.
Mm-hmm.
That is an international event, and to think that we're that good that we can extinct a grouse. That's a pretty far-fetched thing to do. We got to think really highly of ourselves to do that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. It's 100% possible, but probable is not very likely. I think sometimes, if I've hunted grouse in Minnesota, I've hunted birds in Wisconsin, I've hunted them in New Hampshire, in Maine, I've hunted them all over the place. I think that the Appalachian grouse is different. I really do.
Yeah.
I do believe that. I think they're bigger birds. I think they're smarter. I think that they're more adapt to what's going on around them. I think they have a bigger range than people give them credit for. I don't know. It's very intriguing to me. None of it's scientific based. None of it is done in a lab. It's all done with years and years and miles, hundreds and probably thousands of miles on my boots looking for these birds. I'm intrigued by them. highly invested in these birds, and I just can't get to the bottom of them. The Appalachian grouse, that is, the Appalachian grouse. And you're right. You could walk down a trail and not see one.
Mm-hmm.
That's not because they're not there. It's because they don't need to move. They just hunker down and sit there. I challenge you, though, next time you go for a walk in an area that looks really brushy, walk 15, 20 yards and stop. Walk 15, 20 yards more and stop. Grouse hate standing still. They don't like it when things, dogs, animals, anything stand still. It makes them feel like they've been seen, and it makes them want to flush. And I promise you, your flush count will go through the roof on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Got to remember that. Yeah.
I tell you, I'm exactly like you, man. Eric and I have these conversations. Because again, I'll say it again. It's my experience is a fraction of yours, but I'm like you. I think they're a totally different bird, and I think I told you, Wes, on the phone. I got some grouse on my place, and 2 springs ago, I couldn't get them to stop drumming, and there were two drummers, at least 2 males that I knew of. Biologically speaking, there's always more females than there are males in the species or in a population. That's just how God designed it to work. And had I not known that those 2 males were drumming, I would have never known that they were there. Last spring, I didn't hear a single drum the entire spring. Knew the birds were there because they never hopped up on the log because I went back to the same log, but I would flush them around the log. They never hopped up on the log once, never heard a single drum, but they were there. And this past spring in the same area, I saw a hen and chicks. So they didn't do what grouse are supposed to do, but they were there and they were participated in the breeding season. And it's just fascinating stuff because I talk about it with Eric. A lot of it's theoretical, a lot of it's hypothetical. We chase our tails trying to come up with answers to questions that we'll never get the answer to, but I just think they're such a fascinating species, especially here where we're privileged to have them, that I count us very lucky to have them down here. And I don't know, I share a lot of the same thoughts that you just said, that I can't know enough about them. I want to see them every time I go in the woods, flush them, film them on a drumming log. I think they're the coolest thing in the world.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me pivot one more time. If I don't ask this question, then I forget. Then I really get off the thing. Yeah. So I apologize for jumping around here. I asked you about the state agency. And this is as someone was to ask me, I don't know how I'd answer it, but I asked you about the state agency, what they could be doing differently. But conservation organizations, let me scale it down a little bit. What would you love, like RGS for those, Ruffed Grouse Society, North American Woodcock Society, same thing in a roundabout way, and what Cody and I are doing? What would you love for us to concentrate on? What are the things that RGS is doing that they need to be doing a better job? And that's not being critical of them, but it's just like we could always be better. Cody and I, we're dipping our, we got more than a foot in the water. We got some body parts in the water here, and got a lot of passion and motivation behind it. Like what, I'm answering or asking a question here, but it's just, what would you like for us to do and for them to do?
It's a good question. I've actually never been asked that. I donate trips every year to the RGS to get people out to see it. I know that the RGS and the American Woodcock Society is a nonprofit conservation program. I personally don't know what they do outside of cutting. I'm just ill-informed, or I'm just ignorant. I've never really researched it too much. I personally believe that in states in which, again, let me tie it all together here. Am I saying that Virginia is a world-class grouse hunting state? I'm not claiming that by any means. I'm just simply saying it's not as bad as people say it is.
Mm-hmm.
One. It is not Minnesota. It is not Wisconsin. It is not Michigan, Connecticut, New Hampshire, stuff like that. But it's It damn sure is not Georgia. Okay, Georgia is pretty dire, in my opinion, from what I hear. I think the biggest thing is these Appalachian states, that there is a, number one, I would say the RGS needs to go in and probably get more accurate data on what is actually out there. Partner with local resources, your bear hunters, your guides, and I'm the only one that does grouse hunting in the state of Virginia commercially. Partner with us, and we can show you what we're seeing and where we're finding birds at, and maybe change the course of action on trying to gather this data. Go to these different locations where we find birds at and do your drumming reports there, rather than traditional spots. Because I will argue that that's inaccurate. But then also, I would say going to the state level and changing some regulations on stuff. I really believe that we need to have a species-specific licensing for grouse. If the state believes that the grouse population is as bad as it is, then why are they not doing something to control it more? It's the same harvest limit as it was 10 years ago, 3 birds. And if it is that bad, then why is it the same harvest limit? Either there's something they're not telling us, or they don't care. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. And
yeah,
you made a comment there, and I'm going to tie it in with what Cody always talks about, is that when you look up rough grouse management or the biology of it, it's all outdated stuff. You know, recent, really hardcore data. What's it from, Cody? What's the book, Appalachian?
It's the old ACGRP research, West Appalachian Cooperative Grouse Research Project.
Yeah, it's a multi-state type deal, and we won't get into that. But the thing about it is that it's the old adage, you know, it's just like you keep doing it wrong. Well, you don't know that you're doing it wrong. You know, it's just like there needs to be new. That's and right. Maybe doing what you just suggested, just hooking up with bear hunters. For a new research person out of college, that uncomfortability of talking and hooking up with bear hunters, you know, would be huge. That the uncomfortability, you know, number one, I already know, you know, it's like, I don't believe you. I guess I got to hook up with this hillbilly with a bunch of hounds, and we got to go with this. Yeah. And not that they are, I'm just saying, you know, don't put words in my mouth, Cody. Anyway,
so you just pissed off a whole bunch of people down here.
Pissed off a bunch of you dumb. No, it's just and people like yourself, boots on the ground, man. It's like, look at the research, the new discoveries that are waiting to be discovered, and they're not. Yeah, because it goes back to what you said, and Cody has said this multiple times. We have to go in the past to find the future, and it's like, well, yeah, in some cases we got to learn from our past, but not in this case.
Yeah, I there's a few guys that I know of that they hunt every season that's on the ground. They hunt, and I'm texting them, "Hey guys, you see any grouse? Oh yeah, we flushed 4 over here. Oh yeah, we found 25 over here today." The bear hunters, you want to talk about some human beings that can cover ground?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know of a 30-mile mountainside they can't cover quickly in a day. And they know every animal that walks in that 30 miles before the day is over with. And they will report to me, "Hey, yeah, Wes, we saw this many birds over here, saw me that many flushes over here," whatever it was.
Yeah. And you're using the data.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the point.
Yeah,
100%. And you're right. It is outdated, and there's different ways of doing it. And I think they got comfortable in it, and it's just like, oh, we'll do a drumming report. Well, it's not just about the same locations.
Yeah. That
you're getting the reports from, because those birds move, they adapt, they change, or they were shot. I would not argue that a client of mine, you heard it in the video, we shoot a bird, I wonder if we ruin the birds in that cover. I said that in that video. It's a serious concern of mine. If we shot 2 birds on a double flush, did we just ruin the breeding pair in that cover? I have to wonder that. So I hunt areas again and see next year and see if the birds are still there. And sometimes they're not. So I am genuinely concerned, and I am also incredibly optimistic of the future of these birds. Again, I would, gentlemen, I will connect you with this guy, Mike Carpenter. There is no man on this planet that finds as many grouse as this man does, and he does it in the state of Virginia. In any state in this country. Yes.
I love that. I tell you, I mean, I mumbled through it at the beginning trying to describe what you just said in 4 words: genuinely concerned and optimistic. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. You know, what we do here, or trying to accomplish with Gift for Grouse, is get people to be concerned and not to sensationalize it. Don't want to tell the whole story, you know, show the full picture, which I feel like we did a phenomenal job in this podcast. But, you know, get people you got to take it seriously. But at the same time, they're there. And it goes back to what you said. The more that they're there, and the more data that you can give the bird more legs to stand on, it should incentivize more management or more advocacy or more cutting or whatever. It should inspire. It should be inspiring to know that they're there and to know that they're doing as well as they are, which is impossible to quantify. But the fact that they're here and doing however well they are, it should be all the more reason to keep after it and keep moving the needle.
I'm going to show you guys something. I'm zooming out, but that way no one can see these locations. But
yeah, I expect pins after that thing.
I'm just going to tell you right now, these are grouse locations this year.
See?
Yeah, right there. Don't look too hard. Yeah.
It's like pausing and zooming.
You're giving all way too much credit, Wes.
Yep. Those are all grouse contacts this year. Yep.
Wow.
See, that to me is inspiring.
Yeah.
The more that they're there, it one flush, one kill, one drum serves as a catalyst to do the work to make sure that for the next.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Wes.
I think, you know, you asked about the state agencies and rough grouse. I don't know enough about Rough Grouse Society and what they actually do. I know that, put it to you this way, at my level, what I hear, Rough Grouse Society, all I hear is cut. That's all I hear. Again, that is good. I do believe in that, you know, but I'd have to say, you know, is Rough Grouse Society, you know, are they focusing on cuts in a state that are already getting plenty of cuts?
Yeah.
That's a challenge. I mean, at that point, that sounds wasted to me. That's my opinion. But if Rough Grouse Society is getting funding to do cutting in Maine, in which 3/4 of the state is already actively being cut, what good does that do?
Yeah, it's an honest question that deserves an honest answer.
I mean, never thought about it that way.
Or Wisconsin or Minnesota. I mean, those people, they're getting cut, you know, significantly. And, you know, Virginia, look at Georgia, North Carolina. I don't know. I know y'all had Noah on here, and he's a logger. I don't know where he's out of now, but I think he's North Carolina or something like that.
He's in Southwest Virginia now,
okay.
but working all over.
Yeah, and so, you know, I don't know does Rough Grouse Society, are they focusing on areas where they're not getting plenty of cuts? Like, is that the focus, or where are they focused their efforts at? Are they focused on rehabbing an area that already has a heavy density of grouse? or they focus on areas that don't have a heavy density of grouse. I don't know. That's just questions that I have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
you have to. I can't wait for you to. You just ask the question because I can't wait to hear his answer about the experience, man. You got to just do it.
Yeah,
I can't wait. I'm gonna have to actually pack a chew for this one.
Yeah, we'll let you go. But yeah, we ask every guest kind of end the episode with this question, and it's what for you is your most meaningful and memorable experience with a ruffed grouse? I'll give you a little time to think. Is it a hunt, a flush, a point with your dog? We ask everybody that question. When you think about the species, what's an experience, a memory that jumps out to you and says, this one is what means the most to me?
I will never forget when my daughter was 2. In that video, I'd shot that bird. In that video, we brought that bird back, and I had it on in the lodge in the kitchen area, and she is pecking through the crawl. I opened it up and I introduced her early. She doesn't necessarily care about hunting, but she's intrigued by the animals and she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. And I was educating her on what this bird was eating. And she was just intrigued by the fact that it was eating leaves and acorns and these little berries. And that is a very memorable experience where that is the avenue that needs to be taken in educating people on hunting. Is at a very early age, and maybe not even early, maybe older in life, but just showing them the whole process of the hunt and the consumption of that animal and the benefit gained from that animal. And so she knows that at a very young age. I mean, she's born into this life. She may not choose the life later on, but she's born into it and she respects what I do and what I'm passionate about. So that's a very memorable experience on the grouse hunting side. The other grouse hunting, I guess you say memory that I have that has been just monumental to me was a man. He actually has a really good book out. He's hunted and fished all over the world, and he wrote a book about all the hunting and fishing guides he's been with. I have one of the copies in the lodge here. His name is Ryder Knowlton. Actually, a lot of people know him for his hunting and fishing stuff. He would hunt and fish with his grandfather. His grandfather would talk about Appalachian grouse hunting, how fun it was when he was younger. And Ryder was a young man, and he heard the stories of it, kind of like a lot of people heard about their grandfather talking about bird hunting. And he's always wanted to harvest one and go after one. So he contacted me and said, "Hey, I just want to see a grouse. My grandfather would talk about it. I've never seen one before, never hunted them. But I just want to see what my grandfather would go through because I remember the stories that he would tell me about the hunting grouse in Appalachian Mountains." So we go out and we hunted all day. And we're in some really nasty cover, and we found a bird. One of my cockers I sent in, and it flushed the bird out, and he shoots the bird. It falls down, get the bird, and he's holding it. And the look on his face was he's holding this. It was a really big, solid male bird. He's holding this bird. I'm just looking at him. He was tearing up because he had been thinking about this. I mean, he must have been in his 50s, and he's reliving a moment that his grandfather would talk about. He never had the opportunity to do it because everyone told him they didn't exist. He saw the video, said, "I want to do this." I take him hunting. He finds the bird, harvests the bird, and it was one of the most pure, genuine moments between man and animal, the respect paid, that I think I've ever seen. Typically, you'd see that with like an elk or a rhino or something like that, but it was a grouse. And I walked his ass off that day. We went through some treacherous terrain to find this bird, and he got it. And he still talks about it today. Matter of fact, every single client that has shot a bird still talk about it. They can relive it exactly as it happened, and that's special to me in the terms of grouse hunting. It's special. Yeah.
Wow, I tell you. That's awesome. I mean, we've only asked a handful of people that question. Eric and I shared ours in the first couple episodes that we did. Noah talked about being with his dog on top of a mountain, and that led him to pursue a career in forestry. And Mike Dye, our forest game bird biologist here in Virginia, talked about flushing one out of a snow roost one day in southern West Virginia. And it's cool to me how I love the question, because so many different it opens the door to so many different answers, obviously. But, mine and Eric's was a story about the species, about the animal. Same with Mike. Noah was about his dog and the hunt, and then his career and kind of his calling and purpose. And yours, what jumped out to me was the human element behind all of it. The species, connecting people, your daughter young, the client old, those stories, all thanks to a ruffed grouse.
Yep.
I don't know. That was really, I love the question. I love asking people. I love hearing their stories, and I'm glad you shared yours the way you did.
No, it's a very respectable bird. I admire them and respect them. I truly love everything about the grouse. I love the pursuit. I love the way in which we go after them with the dogs. I love the equipment, a really fine shotgun. I love that. It might be a hand-me-down shotgun your granddad gave to you, whatever. I just love every piece of it. I can smell the forest. I can hear the dog panting. I love it. Yep.
I mean, unless you got some, Eric. We could sit and talk all day, but just gosh,
he's not real. This has been. He's a good liar. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. AI generated. Man. Yeah.
This has been very inspiring. I mean, I know that's a weird word to say on a pot. We don't know each other. But listening to just that story alone paints a photo. It's just a shame that we allow our differences to. I shared a quote today with Cody, but the end of it is it's a shame. We allow our differences to dictate whether wildlife could win or lose, and it frustrates me and Cody to death because we have a big row to hoe for us. For the bird and trying to do what's right for the species and the forest ecology itself. And we have a plan. Hopefully the plan, we're going to do the right things, and we can always reach out to you for advice, because I would love to take your advice on some things that we'd like to bounce around and stuff. And this has been great. This has been awesome. I'm glad Cody reached out to you, man. Yeah. You said that you're not a very religious person, and that's what makes the world go round. But there's a reason. There's a reason that we had you on and stuff like that, and it just motivates Cody and I to be better. And I appreciate you.
Well, thank you guys, and I do hope that my perspective. I hope for the grouse that my perspective is balanced, and I hope for people that are on the fence or that want to know more about him, I hope that I did provide some insight. I hope for people that don't like what I do, I hope that can generate a healthy conversation to meet in the middle somewhere, and vice versa. I hope that things I don't like about what other people do, I hope that we meet in the middle somewhere. Because in that middle point, that's where we all have to achieve to get at. Otherwise, we're just thinking selfishly. So that's what I hope.
Yeah.
The middle point is birds on the land, ruffed grouse on the landscape in perpetuity. So
That's right. That's
as
right.
long as we all can agree that that's the middle point, we can work together to ensure that that will get accomplished. But Wes, unless you got anything you want to sound off on and leave us with another incredible story or anecdote on life, or
it's just
inspire us further.
I just can't get past the German short hair thing. He had me hook, line, and sinker. I was ready to make a deposit on a hunt, and there's this.
You ever hunted with a cocker?
No.
Oh my God, those are epic grouse dogs.
Really?
Epic grouse dogs. Epic. Epic. No, it's for me, I love the setters. I love them to death. I don't like having to burn through a couple pair of shears a year. Yeah. But what I love about a setter though is when they're tired and you get back to the truck and they lay on the ground, they put their jowls on the ground, they start rubbing around. Flipping over in the grass.
Yeah.
I love that. It's such a setter move. All of them do it.
Mine. He
Yeah.
does, man. It's funny. The personality they have is phenomenal. But
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
taking the
This was
time.
phenomenal. Appreciate you coming on.
You bet.
Yep.
Y'all take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there, and happy flushes.
Well, I mentioned it in the episode. The title will be whatever concoction of words I come up with, but the full picture of ruffed grouse in Virginia. I think we covered that to the best of our abilities. We didn't. Wes did. Wes painted a very clear and thorough picture of ruffed grouse in Virginia. All the elements, hunting and all that entails, a little bit of habitat, a little bit of advocacy. I thought it was phenomenal. I told you before the podcast on the phone, my experience with Wes was a 30-minute phone call last week, which was super, but I didn't know him from Adam, which can lead to a very good podcast episode because you don't go into it with any predisposition of what the person may or may not say. Like if you and I were to start one, I know no matter the topic, I kind of know what you're going to say. You kind of know what I'm going to say. And inadvertently that we kind of steer the conversation accordingly. And not that that's a bad thing. That's just human nature. I knew Wes from a 30-minute phone call. You had never talked to him. You knew him even less than I did, which allowed the conversation and allowed us to get to know each other in a very honest, and that's one thing I want to say. Wes is honest, unapologetic, and he's got some stones on him to do what he does and to say the things that he did. But having not known each other prior to, it led for a very organic conversation, which I think was a very good one about everything we talked about with ruffed grouse in Virginia.
Yeah, it was something I couldn't get it out of my mind, especially in the beginning, that he was an outfitter. And, not that I was thinking this, I couldn't get it out of my mind that maybe there was an agenda and stuff like that. And I'm just being upfront and honest. But the whole time I was fighting against that. Like, you can't, I'm just lost for words because he's not that. I'm sorry. He just did a complete snow job on us. He's not that. It wasn't that. And another thing that I couldn't get out of my mind, like halfway through, if you noticed, I was kind of quiet on this one. I was listening. Usually I'm, but it's just, we're not seeing the grouse numbers the way they used to be that our forefathers seen them, because of our hunting style. We're deer hunters. We go from point A to B. We're not out squirrel hunting anymore. We're not out rabbit hunting anymore. Mm-hmm. Going from a stand from your truck, walking like a ninja to your tree stand. How can you, again, not saying that the grouse are not need attention. That's not the whole conversation. I hope you don't take that away from this podcast because they do. But it's our hunting. Am I wrong? Maybe they're not in bad they are in bad shape, but the numbers aren't there because we're not doing those things that we used to do to say, oh, flush the woodcock. I did this.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong?
No, I don't know. We could do a whole episode unpacking. That's what we should do. We should do a part 2 where Cody and Eric reflect upon.
I tell you what, this might be one to do, Cody.
You see those reaction social media videos, yeah. Because there's a lot to unpack. Number one, I don't think you're wrong, and it kind of Wes and I kind of went back and forth on it a little bit. You and I have gone back on. I think. Again, ruffed grouse, the species is the same from Georgia to Alaska. It is Bonanza, right?
Umbellus, yeah.
The species is a species, but you can't convince me that our birds in Appalachia, they're a different bird. And I've said it to you 100 times. I've said it on this podcast, there's so much we don't know about them. And the research, the only real research that we can point to is 30 years old over a 7 or 8 year window, which was phenomenal and it's been helpful, but it's so not insignificant, but it's so it's such a small sample size, and again, everything that I've told you about the birds that I have experiences with, it's kind of echoes what Wes said about finding them in areas where outside of those traditional cuts, because you get so married to clear cuts in this certain habitat, but that doesn't mean that he finds them where it's not that, and like I mentioned, the birds that I have on my place, if a biologist, if the state had done a drumming survey on my property on Rockin' Chair Ridge spring of 25, it would have got a big red 0 for those GPS coordinates in that section of the map. But there were 3 or 4 birds at least. Why they didn't drum, I don't know. You'd have to ask Chip.
And you had a successful brood.
And a successful brood coming off of a difficult winter. So there's so much we just don't know about them. So much I wish I'd love to learn. And another thing that it's kind of been an intentional decision to me to not make this an upland hunting podcast, which it's not going to be. But Wes and how I like what he said about kind of using hunting as the vehicle to educate, to make people aware about where he's finding the birds, about what they're eating, about their habitat, about using hunting as an educational tool. You don't have to kill them. You don't have to hunt them. Again, 600 flushes, you're shooting 7. Like that's a drop in the bucket. And we've said it before. We said it with Noah. You don't know a species until you hunt it. Nobody knows a species as intimately as the hunter who hunts it. Turkeys, grouse, quail, deer. Until you hunt it and spend days in the field, in its habitat, where it lives, gathering all these data points. Like I said, if you flush a grouse in a 10-year-old clear cut, maybe it's a coincidence that day, but it's over time, it's a data point. With Wes saying you in those north-facing poplar coves or those hollers with those deadfall, and I can visualize that deep cut holler with the deadfalls across it and the mushrooms grow. That's a data point. So all that to say that's data, not done professionally by a biologist, but it's a data point that can help us influence how we manage the species. And you can't gather those data points unless you're hunting it like Wes does, unless you're hunting grouse like Wes does. So no question, I'm kind of going on a rant to just express my gratitude to what Wes does, and again, how clearly he communicated everything also stood out to me. But I don't know. Take that rambling for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, I just love talking to people that are philosophical. I strive on that. I just love it. And the whole time, my wheels were just, I couldn't keep up because I was still stuck on one thing and he was going on to another. And I was just like, I'm going to listen to this podcast a bunch because there was a lot of things that could be built on some from some comments that he made and stuff. And I don't know how you're going to get reels out of this, because it was just like, what the, yeah, I'm exhausted. I'll be honest with you. I'm like, my brain is, I'm ready for bed. Because it was like, I need, no. And maybe we're just caught up in the moment, and maybe so. But man, that was some philosophical, that was some deep thought type stuff. You don't have to agree with it. Yeah. But that makes you, some of the things he was saying makes you like, I can't think of anything offhand that was like, no, I don't believe what you're saying. That's not what I'm talking about. But it was like, man, you're making me think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're making me think. And that's what I appreciated it. Again, so for those of people that don't agree with what he does for a living, to each its own. So it makes the world go around. And maybe we're not seeing the picture of what you're talking about. But no, good. That was some really great stuff. I'm glad you connected with him, Cody. Man, that's, again, I remember back in the Drum and Log days, I had did that little thing for a while. Who is our Aldo Leopold? Mm-hmm. And I thought of that when he was talking. I thought of that post on my Drum and Log Wildlife Management social media thing. I did that, and I had a handful of people, and it was like, we're looking for that one person, and that one person doesn't exist. It's all of us. Yeah. Because there's all these, we don't have that one person anymore. It's Wes, it's Noah, it's this person, and the people that we're going to have in the future. Those are all the Leopolds, man. Mm-hmm. That was some good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I can't say it exceeded expectations because I didn't know Wes before this conversation, so I had no expectations.
Dude, I was on social media trying to gain as much like, oh, hey, we're talking to Wesley Hodges, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, man, I was digging deep, and I didn't see anything I didn't like, and I'm like, okay. While you were sitting there talking, he came on, I'm sitting there on social media still like, I got to learn about this guy. But all good, man. Well, Cody, I appreciate you and all the hard work that you've been doing, and we'll just keep moving forward, right?
That's all we can do.
Yeah. As my grandpa always used to say, no hurry, no worry, keep moving.